Hi, I'm Jess.
Hi, I'm Kristen.
And this is Rediscover, a conversation where we travel through everything that makes up the essence of who we are and how to live authentically and imaginatively.
Here, we invite you to join us as we explore and discuss a little bit of, well, everything.
From Disney to cultivating your most authentic life to deepening your relationships and talking about the real stuff.
We hope you'll find this a space that speaks to you, encourages you, and brings a little bit of magic into your day.
Hi there, I'm Jess.
Hi, I'm Kristen.
And welcome back to this week's episode of Rediscover.
This month is all about spring cleaning and starting anew with the new season of the year that's all about growth and renewal and a fresh beginning. So we really wanted to take time to dive into anxiety management. This has been a highly requested episode for a long time now from many of you who know that Jess and I, like so many people, struggle with anxiety, and we have learned some ways to manage it over the years, and we hope that they'll be helpful and resonate with you.
And we thought that this tied into our spring cleaning month because it ties into the cleaning up of your mental space or just caring for your mental space. Both of us have experienced anxiety firsthand. Everything we are talking about in this episode is based on experience, things we've gone through, tips and tricks we've tried that have worked for us. They may not work for everyone, but there's no harm in trying these. They're all safe to try at home. We also want to give a disclaimer. We are not professionals. We cannot give any official scientific background on these. Again, they are just from our own perceived point of views and perceptions and experiences.
Yeah, we are not doctors. We're not medical professionals. We are not anxiety coaches. We are just people who have experienced acute anxiety, generalized anxiety, situational anxiety, and these are some methods and actionable ways to manage it, because sometimes it's not about finding a cure-all that's going to make everything lovely and rosy again. It's just about learning how to manage it so it doesn't manage you.
Yes.
And we also want to acknowledge that although none of these tips and pieces of advice have anything to do with prescribed medication, we are not opposed to it. We are not against it. If you take medication for your anxiety, that is totally fine. We acknowledge that some situations are different. The severity is different. The demands on your life and your time are different. So if you take anxiety medication, these things can supplement that and help you to feel even better. Or if you don't take medication, maybe these are going to be some things for you to try. But
yes,
we're not opposed.
Sometimes medication is a really good route. It's all based on your own personal journey, your health, and your research that you've done, and if it's the right fit for you.
So we want to begin with some more ideological things that you can try, some mindset work that you can do to kind of evaluate your anxiety and, where it comes from, what you can control in the situation versus what you can't. And I think that's the big thing to be aware of when you're experiencing anxiety, whether it's in the form of a panic attack or you just feel this kind of chronic worried feeling that sort of just causes you to feel tense all the time. Kind of stop and evaluate, what is the situation? What about this situation can I control? Because for human beings, fear and anxiety come from lack of control a lot of the time, right? So kind of evaluating, what can I control here? What can't I control? And then being able to accept what you can't control and just focusing on what you can be really helpful. It is hard. It causes you to have to surrender a little bit to the situation or the circumstance. But if you focus on what you can do and ground yourself in that, what you can't control will have less power over you, and you will kind of take the anxiety-inducing property away from it a little bit.
Yeah, you can even make a list of these things if that's a structure that helps you. So, for example, things you can control. You can control your attitude and how you respond to things. You can do things like turn off the news or limit time on social media. You can focus on how much kindness you give others, how much grace you give others and yourself, whatever activities you choose to do. Things you cannot control. You have no control over other people, how other people react to you, or predicting what's going to happen. An example, too, a lot of us have developed more anxious tendencies with the pandemic going on. So one thing that's definitely out of all of our controls is how long this will last. So being able to differentiate those two things and making sure that you're not trying to take on finding solutions for the things that are out of your control.
Yeah, I think of being stuck in traffic. When you're stuck in a gridlock, you have no control over that. You can't get out of it unless you want to get out of your car and walk and leave your vehicle behind. You're just kind of stuck there. So the only thing you can control in that situation is how you respond to the situation. So you're either going to get really angry and you're going to be swearing and you're going to be hitting your steering wheel, or maybe you're going to just be anxious the entire time, or maybe you're going to say, oh, I've been wanting to catch up on this podcast, rediscover, or maybe you've been wanting to listen to a new album, or maybe you haven't called your mom in a while. And so you can say, you know what, I've been giving the blessing of this time, and now I can use it to do this thing that I enjoy doing. So it's all about your response. And we're not going to have one response every time. We might sometimes get really angry because we're late for something, and we might sometimes be like, I don't have anywhere to be. I'll listen to some music and jam out for a while. So it's showing yourself the grace to know that you're not going to get it right every time, but also just really trying to get in the mindset of altering your attitude, because you can't alter the situation.
Our next point is, one really good anxiety management skill is to actually kind of talk to yourself and rationalize what's going on, and ask yourself some questions like, what does my body need in this moment? Maybe that's food, maybe that's water, maybe it's rest, and listening to those cues that you receive and those messages you receive in your mind. Taking a step back from the swirling thoughts and talking to yourself maybe like a child, or maybe like a friend, or maybe like another person, instead of lumping everything together and operating from the state of anxiety.
In asking yourself questions about, you know, what you need in the midst of feeling anxious, it's also important to understand that sometimes you're not going to be able to identify the root cause of your anxiety. Sometimes you're going to be sitting in traffic and you feel anxious for obvious reasons, or there's a global pandemic, so you feel anxious for obvious reasons. But sometimes you're just sitting on your couch, or you're somewhere that's a very safe space for you normally, and nothing's really going on, but yet you start to feel anxious. I mean, I've literally been laying in bed before and I feel anxious, and I'm like, what? Nothing's happening right now. Why do I feel like this? And I almost stress myself out more by trying to figure out what's going on. But there are so many things going on within our bodies physiologically, chemical releases and hormonal things, and things that have sometimes nothing to do with our immediate environment around us. So I think it's important, if you can identify the root cause, to really be mindful of it and maybe even write it down, like, I felt anxiety when this happened. But if you can't identify the root cause, almost like telling your body, like, okay, you're doing something right now. I don't really know what it is, but it's okay. We're okay.
Yeah, like, for example, sometimes I will experience anxiety in the middle of the day and I'm like, what's going on? And I can think back to my morning, and I have a very touchy caffeine sensitivity. So even if I have like matcha or a bit of caffeine, I have a few sips of coffee, I am like, oh, I had caffeine today. That's a root cause. Yeah. Or I've had other instances, like when I was really, really sick last year, I would be at work and be very, very anxious. And at the time, I was a bit out of tune with my body, so I didn't realize I was having as many health issues as I was. So that's a time when it's great to reflect and be like, okay, is this anxiety just because I'm scared of my environment? And if your environment is safe, okay, is there something internally going on? So asking questions, and if the answer comes up as no, like, listen to your initial subconscious reaction, because that's usually your intuition. And if it says no, well, then give yourself permission, like, okay, I'm just having anxiety just because, and that's okay. That one's really about being in tune with yourself. Our next point is affirmations, which I do talk about all of the time. Affirmations are statements that you tell yourself that have more of a positive context than maybe what your mind is going through and what your core beliefs are. It's to kind of rewire your brain to get yourself into a more positive space. Just two of my very, very basic favorite affirmations for when I'm feeling anxious are, I am okay and I feel safe. And just, I repeat those in my brain over and over again. Just sometimes you need to hear that. Like I just mentioned, it's like rationalizing. like, okay, I am really safe right now. And describe the room to yourself. Like, I'm in a room, I'm in my bed, everything is okay. Like, my doors are locked, the temperature is okay. I am safe, I am okay. So again, you can find 1.5 million affirmations for anxiety online. I always mention Louise Hay. She has really great affirmations for anxiety. Or you can just type in on Pinterest affirmations for anxiety, or on YouTube, just to start getting your brain to calm down. And then another really great tool that I like to use is body scanning. So that is when you close your eyes, take a deep breath, and you start scanning your body from your head down to your toes and just placing your focus on different body parts. So focusing on the top of your head, focusing on your eyebrows, on your eyes, your nose, your ears, your mouth, and just going all the way down and trying to relax each of those body parts when you get to them. I oftentimes do that before I go to sleep, or just when I'm feeling anxious and I'm taking a minute to myself to do some deep breathing. That can be a really great opportunity to do some breath work and getting your mind back into your body. So these are the kind of tools that I really like to use frequently. So another one is breath work, which there are many different styles of breath work that you can do, and there's so much information out there on this. One strategy I like to use is I like to inhale for 4, hold for 4, and exhale for 4, and just keep doing that over and over again. There's other ones like alternate nostril breathing, where you place your finger over one side of your nose, inhale, hold, switch your finger, exhale, then you re-inhale, and then you switch your finger and exhale again. So it kind of gets your mind off of whatever's going on, and it focuses it back on your breath. So those are just 2 examples. There's so many other types you can do, but those are the 2 that I really gravitate towards. Another one is a white light visualization. So this is a really great one, especially if you're into energy, but really anybody can do this. But white light is very, very purifying. So if you are in a space where you are safe, you can close your eyes and just envision white light either pouring in from the top of your head and going all the way down your body. You can imagine breathing in white light and having it fill up every corner of your body, or just wrapping your entire body in white light. Any variation of that will work, but white light is a very, very powerful and cleansing light, and it's just a very nice and comforting and purifying visual. I really like that one a lot. It's so comforting.
I haven't tried that one yet, but I liked, like, when you were describing it, visualizing it. It's a little bit biblical. Picture like Jesus walking. It always is like shrouded in this glow or whatever. Like he's glowing.
Yeah.
Like anything pure is glowing. It's radiating.
Even
light.
if you don't do white light, you could do any color. You could do a color sort of visualization for
rainbow.
that. Yeah. And that one's kind of fun because then you're like starting to pick out different colors, and it's cool to tune into your body like that. To continue on in this section, I know I'm giving you a ton of strategies here.
Yeah, we're going to get into some more physical ones in a moment, but Jess is all about the spiritual energy shifts.
When I'm anxious, I really like to calm down and get back in my body, because I feel like my brain and my mind and my soul like scatter, and it's not grounded. Yeah,
so this is maybe a good moment to just briefly, while Jess is taking a sip of water, mention that everyone's anxiety management strategies are different, and trying everything that we say is not going to hurt you. But if some things work for you better than others, then just go with those. You know, it's all about trial and error. Nothing that you do is going to harm you. You might just notice that your anxiety isn't relieved after you've tried it, so then you try something else. Jess, I think you're someone who likes to feel grounded when you're feeling anxious, and I'm someone who, if I'm feeling anxious, sometimes I need to go and do something. Sometimes I need to move and run or be physical and like get out of my head. So that's something that tends to work better for me. So it's like same type of anxiety, different response pattern. Both effective, but just different. Just see what works for you. And some of these things can even happen at the same time, which we'll get into in a moment. But I want Jess to talk about meditation first.
Yes, I love talking about meditation. So my favorite strategy to do when I am looking up a good meditation, I honestly just go on YouTube and I type in like whatever the topic is, meditation. So for this example, I could type in anxiety meditation or meditation for anxiety. And I have it set up in my in my brain that when I go to YouTube and I see a video, whatever one I feel innately drawn to, like that's the one that's supposed to resonate with me in the moment. So I'll listen to that and just let it play. And as long as I feel like it's resonating, I just listen to the whole thing. A lot of times I listen to them while I go to sleep. Sometimes I sit up and listen to them. It's really what works best for you. The reason I like the ones that are geared towards anxiety specifically are they refocus and target the feeling of anxiety a lot more. I'll also search ones that are like releasing worry or control, things like that. Depending on whatever the angle my anxiety is coming from, I feel like you're able to find ones that are applicable. I feel like having anxiety actually was an opportunity for me to deepen my spiritual journey and my spiritual connection to myself. So whatever that looks like for you, whether you are into doing devotionals, if you are Christian, if you are someone who is more spiritual and you are more resonant with meditating and energy and things like that, whatever that looks like for you, sometimes having anxiety gives you the opportunity to kind of lean into it more, because a lot of spirituality is based on trust, and a lot of roots of anxieties is feeling like you're out of control and you're not really surrendering to the moment of what's going on. So I like to do some spiritual readings sometimes just to kind of refocus my mind and look at the bigger picture and be like, oh, I really am okay. So I'm not super knowledgeable about crystals. I have a few. I just think they're really pretty, but I do believe they have really great effects. And one that's really good for anxiety is amethyst. It's the purple crystal. So whether or not it does anything for you, I know it does really help a lot of people. Sometimes picking a crystal could be really fun. Whether or not it's the crystal itself that helps, sometimes just holding something like that in your hand is a nice thing to do when you have anxiety too. Like I just kind of like to hold on to it and like flip it around in my hand and feel it, something to touch and stimulate one of your senses.
Yeah, I think for me, my anxiety management as far as spirituality is concerned involves sometimes listening to worship music. Sometimes it involves reading a devotional or even picking out a section of scripture. I have a Bible that's like a journaling Bible, so there's lines in the margins for you to like jot notes and things, and I will write all over mine. It's just asking to be doodled on. So even just finding a passage that resonates with how I'm feeling. Obviously like Psalms are a great one. But I also find like the book of Romans to be super, super powerful, and Ephesians as well. But I think however you go, it's really just reframing everything and focusing that energy, because that's all anxiety is energy, into something that can be repurposed for good or for realization or for learning something new about yourself. So as I said, some of my responses to anxiety are more physical and I think can be connected spiritually as well. I like to get outside when I'm feeling anxious. I especially find that being in the sun helps me, not necessarily being in heat, but being in the sun and just laying down and feeling the warmth of the sunshine on my face and on my skin just helps me to feel instantly calm. Something about that warm feeling, and when your eyes are closed but behind your eyelids you can kind of see that it's bright. And maybe it's like that light imagining that works for you, but that's what works for me, is that warm yellowish glow of the sun.
Actual light.
Yeah, of actual, real, natural light. Obviously, like the sun is our greatest energy source, so why not use it as a positive energy source? It works really well for me, and I do love going for walks too, just the act of physically moving. Sometimes I even go for a run. It doesn't happen that often, but sometimes it does. If my anxiety's bad enough, I will run. Girl will run.
Gotta go.
But just going for a walk or a run, getting outside and moving, because then I feel like I'm not sitting still in my anxiousness. I'm moving, and so the energy has to move too, and I'm trying to help it move somewhere where it's not negatively affecting me anymore, and that helps me a lot to that same effect. Like hiking is really helpful for that too, I think. But I always say, find your mountaintop. For me, it's a place in nature, and everyone sort of has one, where you feel like the most grounded, the most connected, and the most like safe and free almost. So for me, I have a couple of them. I have like one here in New York that's like a literal hilltop that I like to go to, and I'll just drive up there. I've driven up there in the middle of the night before, like whenever I feel like I just gotta go. But also I love to be by the ocean. Like the sound of the waves and the salty smell of the air and the breeze and everything just helps me feel instantly calm. So wherever it is for you, I think finding that place and call it your mountaintop or call it your sanctuary, whatever you need to call it, give it a name and make sure it's my this, because then it's yours, it's for you, and it's there for you when you need it. I think that's super helpful. Another really grounding practice that also involves being outside that sort of bridges the gap between the two of us is standing in the grass. There's a lot of science behind the effect that standing barefoot in the grass or in the dirt or in the sand has on resetting your circadian rhythm and grounding you and making you feel connected with the earth and feeling present in your life and where you are. And when you feel present and grounded, you're able to kind of wipe away the cobwebs of the past and stop worrying about the future so much. You're just able to kind of stand and be and reset and recalibrate, and I think that that's super helpful. But if you can't stand still for too long, as I sometimes have trouble with, exercise is a really, really great way to release endorphins, get your adrenaline going, a healthy adrenaline, get out any of that negative energy. Like literally I envision that when I'm sweating, this is kind of gross, but like I'm sweating it out. Like I always say that whether I'm like in the sun or I'm just like sweating working out or something, I'm like, I'm sweating out all of this bad energy. And I think that works for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think you see people getting out of bad relationships or dealing with some real heavy grief and feeling like they need to exercise. And I think we've seen that in the pandemic too. People are really feeling not being able to go to the gym or partake in their normal workout routines. There are plenty of ways to work out without going to a gym. For me, I just don't see it as a necessity to join a gym. I think you can get outside. I think you can... I've literally done dance classes on the TV in my apartment. Like, you can work out with friends, go for a run, play with your dog. Like, there are so many ways to be active and feel that anxiety release without having to join a gym, or join a gym if you live somewhere where they exist right now. So
Yeah, and for me, my body loves gentle exercise, so I'm a really big yoga and Pilates girl. Like you just said, YouTube videos are a saving grace for just being able to do at-home yoga or at-home Pilates. And my absolute favorite YouTube yoga girl is Yoga with Adriene. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of her before, but she has a whole collection of yoga videos on YouTube that are free, that are high quality, like yoga class style workouts. And I just can't believe that we have access to all of them. And she does really cool ones. Like she will do them very specified towards, like, if I'm having lower back pain one day, I'll type in Yoga with Adriene lower back pain, and she has a video for that. And she has a video for headache. She even has one called When You Feel Dead Inside. And it was such a good workout. So she's amazing. She's super cute. She has a dog even. His name's Benji that comes on screen. So that's an anxiety reliever right there. So finding something like that that gets you excited, and if Yoga with Adriene works for you, like when I get anxious, I'll just revert to, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go do a class, and I get back in my body.
Yeah. And it gives you something to do. So you're not thinking about your anxiety, you're thinking about the thing that you're doing. And especially with physical activity, you have to be mindful of the way your body is moving and how your body feels when you move that way. It's a great way to get outside of your anxiety and into your whole being.
Mm-hmm. And you focus so much on your breath too, which is really, really good.
Which is huge. So along the same lines of physical things that you can do to manage your anxiety, or just tangible actions you can take, I am somebody who likes to not only be doing physical things. I have this, like, I feel like my whole anxiety vibe is like, move! I like to move, I like to exercise, but I also like to do things with my hands. So some of my favorite activities to do when I'm feeling anxious are those adult coloring books, you guys. Are so cathartic.
They're
and
so
fun. I also love cooking and baking when I'm feeling anxious. Not only is it a self-care practice because I'm making something that I can eat or making something that I can share with others. It's mindful, you have to pay attention, but it's also something that creates a sense of peace for me because it's just so calming.
And you have something, like a product at the end.
Yeah, there's some sweat equity there as well.
Yeah.
You have something you can consume that will then be nourishing your physical body as well. Mm-hmm. And then while I'm cooking or baking or coloring in my adult coloring books, I like to listen to music. And I think this is a big one for anxiety, Jess and I both agreed we like instrumental music to help us feel calm, whether that's your favorite film score or just some classical piano music or some jazz. We love jazz.
I love jazz.
We love jazz music. I like to listen to jazz when I'm anxious because it's sort of like when you picture a jazz club or something, it's kind of dark, it's soothing, everyone's having these like hushed conversations. It sort of just evokes this instant sense of calm. And I love to listen to music while I cook. Like, cooking for me is an event. I'm like, pour myself a glass of wine, there's music, or I'm listening to a podcast or something. Rediscover.
I'm loving all these plugs.
Rediscover with Jess and Kristen. And it becomes like an event. It almost becomes like a thing that I schedule into my day, almost like going out to eat, but I'm staying in to eat. And I think that helps kind of get me into a positive headspace also.
There's this gratifying piece of it, like I accomplished something, and it just helps build up your self-worth, and it's really good to do. Like,
and it's something you get better at by doing it.
Yeah.
Like, it's something that you will notice as you continue to cook and try new recipes and things. You learn new skills. You learn what works and what doesn't, and what you like and what you don't. And it becomes this thing that over time you can measure your progress in your cooking and almost like take your anxiety on that journey with you.
So I think a really big thing with anxiety is the word that comes to mind that I crave the most is just comfort, because I think anxiety is very uncomfortable. So what is within your control that you can do to provide yourself more comfort? So there's a lot of different things. Just think of what's the most comfortable. So for me, some of that stuff would be wearing really comfortable clothes, like maybe a really fluffy sweatshirt that's oversized that makes you feel like you're wrapped up.
Oh my gosh, my mom got me the fuzziest, gigantic bathrobe for Christmas.
That's perfect.
And it is like a hug.
Yeah.
Also, I wear it with fuzzy socks.
Yep. So fuzzy socks is another one. Maybe you love having a bunch of blankets on, or love having a ton of pillows surrounding you. You like blankets?
I love blankets. Okay. Also, interlude. I got a weighted blanket for Christmas from my sister. Now that I think about it, all my gifts were like comfort and self-care related this Christmas. My sister bought me a weighted blanket, and it is the best thing. She got it on Amazon. I don't know how much it costs, but I looked some up on Amazon just for reference, and they're pretty reasonable. So I say if you're looking for like a lowball investment into your anxiety management, that is a great way to go. It is incredible. Like instant calm.
There's something really interesting about weighted blankets. I remember the first time I used one, and I was like, whoa, I feel different.
Safe.
Yeah. Yeah, because it feels like you're just being hugged. So, again, everyone feels different about those, but...
If you don't like it, you can just send it to me.
And then on the topic of blankets, sometimes the most comforting thing for me to do with anxiety is sleeping, which I know is a pretty basic thing, but sometimes I get so anxious, and it's because my body is needing rest, and whether that be because I'm overworking or I'm just trying to push myself to get through the day because I feel like I have to for some reason. Sometimes you just have to check in and be like, body, do you need to sleep? And if the answer is yes, just kind of going with it and being okay with that. Not having to justify how much sleep you're getting, just letting yourself sleep when you need to sleep.
Everyone needs different sleep.
Yep.
That whole idea that there's a recommended amount for people of certain ages is BS. Sleep however much you need for your body.
So start tuning into that. There's a bunch of sleep tracking apps out there that you could use. Maybe just keep a journal of how long you sleep at night and when you feel your best, or just kind of feel it out. Yeah. And really honor your body's sleep cycles and hunger cues. Those are two really big ones that we tend to ignore. So on the topic of comfort, sometimes when you're anxious, it actually does help to just kind of tune out and maybe just watch some Netflix. Like, It's okay to just watch a comfort show.
Like, picture this. You're in your giant fuzzy sweatshirt and your fuzzy socks, and you have tea or whatever you like to drink, and you're cozied up on your couch watching the Great British Bake Off, and you're just like, oh, now I want cake.
And there you go. A perfect visual.
No, but yeah, I think we should talk about some of our favorite comfort shows. Just name a few off the top of your head.
Well, for both of us, Great British Bake Off is one.
Jess finally got there. We're so happy to welcome her.
Oh my If you guys have not watched The Great British Bake Off, please do.
As soon as this podcast is over.
You will be doing yourself a huge service. It is just so comforting. I would say, particularly when you're choosing a comfort show, choose something that doesn't have a lot of action and drama and like anxiety-inducing topics, because the whole point of this is to keep yourself calm.
So like true crime shows, maybe not.
But something like Gilmore Girls or New Girl or Friends, where you're just in a comfortable space, like Stars Hollow and Gilmore Girls, cozy town, we all know it.
Yes.
The loft or the friend's apartment, those are cozy,
Yeah.
familiar places.
Yeah. Those are all for sure favorites of mine. Gilmore Girls especially just makes me feel calm, like something about the music. It's all like la la la.
I mean, maybe don't watch the ones with Rory's boy drama, but
Yeah, those are triggering for sure.
also too, sometimes reverting back to like those shows you watched when you were younger. So maybe you want to revisit Lizzie McGuire, or you want to revisit Full House or Saved by the Bell or anything
Boy
from that.
Meets World.
Yes, Boy Meets World. That's So Raven, Even Stevens, like anything from that era. Hannah Montana, just saying.
Nostalgia is comforting.
And like just letting yourself watch it. I feel like sometimes we judge ourselves for spending time doing things like that, but like, why? If it makes you feel comforted and safe and cozy and just at home, just give yourself permission to enjoy it.
Yeah, you don't always have to be doing a thing.
You don't have to justify
Again,
it.
we talk about being childlike a lot, but I think one thing kids really get right that we've talked about before, I think with Amy, when we talked about manifesting, we talked about the concept of play and doing a thing just to do the thing, and how kids are like, I'm just going to build a sandcastle, and I know I'm going to knock it down when I'm done, but I'm going to have fun building the sandcastle.
Yeah.
Just have fun watching the show, even if you're not doing anything on the side, or, you know, it's not like teaching you something new. It's okay to be comfortable sometimes. I love all of those nostalgic shows. I think our friendship is like partially built on Disney Channel original TV shows like Liz McGuire and Boy Meets World. I love The Great British Baking Show, New Girl, Friends, Gilmore Girls, all of that. We have all the same favorites. I would say if I have to add anything to that list, Downton Abbey.
Ooh.
Not the first time you watch it through, because it does get a little dramatic at times. You know, there's life and death and things like that. But if you've watched it through already and you know what's going to happen and everything, it is very comforting to watch a second time through. And also more recently, my new favorite comfort show is Bridgerton. I've watched it through twice and I'm on my third round.
I need to get on that train.
So good.
Yeah, I keep saying I want to watch it.
You are the diamond of the season.
And again, doing this in moderation is best.
Yeah.
You don't want to get into a endless cycle of this.
So one of my favorite things to do when I'm feeling anxious as far as watching TV is concerned is watching stand-up comedy. There are so many Netflix specials from amazing comedians that just make me forget where I am. They make me forget all my problems. I'm just laughing the entire time. And I'm someone who definitely uses humor as a coping mechanism. So I think if you're like that, it will help you to kind of laugh about the things you can't control. That's really what they're doing. Their whole program is basically laughing at human beings and the way we are and the situations in the world, making them lighter than they are. So I think if that resonates with you as far as like helping you to manage your anxiety, that's a great way to occupy your mind. And you know, laughing is good for you. It keeps you young. Serotonin. And speaking of serotonin, we love some cute dog videos on the internet. I mean, if you don't love cute videos of puppies like falling over stuff, are you really a human being? If you don't love those, I'm sorry, we can't help you. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, I feel like cute animal videos and comedy, both of those two really take you out of the moment and get you so focused on something that's just lighthearted and enjoyable. On the topic of animals, if you have a pet or if you have access to visiting a cute dog or kitty or whatever your favorite animal is, animals are a great opportunity to just have a stress release because they're just so cute and fluffy, and you pet them and they're so happy and they just love you, and it's just the best feeling.
Oxytocin.
Animals are a great anxiety management assister.
Yeah. Hug your dog.
Yeah.
Or your cat. Or your human. I think hugging in general, for me, it just makes, like, especially certain people. I have certain friends. I have a friend named Victoria who gives the best, if she's probably going to listen to this. Hi, Victoria. She gives the best hugs in the world, and I tell her this all the time because she makes you feel like held.
Yeah.
She's like, I am here. What's going on? And it's great. And whenever I hug my mom, we do this thing where we like sway a little and then we like wiggle a little bit. It sounds super weird, but it's just like the biggest bear hug type of hug. And we do this every time we see each other.
Aww.
And it's like, it just makes me instantly feel better. Like, everything's okay. I'm here with my mom and I'm giving her a hug.
Hugging is really great. And I know a lot of us have been craving the physical touch this year because of the pandemic. So if you haven't had a hug in a long time, or when you finally get to again, just relish in the moment. Hugs are a gift.
Yeah, I guess I should preface that with some sensitivity. So for the first 6 months, almost 6 months of the pandemic, I was not able to be around anyone because I was working, and everyone that I knew that was close to me, my whole family, close friends, they were all quarantining, and I wasn't allowed to be around any of them. So I felt so alone. I was living alone in a new place by myself, and I felt like I just need to hug my mom. And for months, that was all I wanted. And then finally, when things started to be more okay again, and, you know, I wasn't around as many people, I was finally able to hug my mom after months, and that moment was like, I like just lost it. So if you haven't been able to hug the people you want to hug, hopefully there's someone in your close pod that you can. But if not, even just visualizing that moment can help.
Yep. Or hugging a really large pillow, or hugging yourself just to kind of get the sensation. On the topic of physical touch, this is more of a treat yourself kind of one. If you really want to set aside some special time for self-love and self-care, maybe when it's safe to do so, book a massage too, just to kind of release the tension. We hold a lot of tension in our bodies. I particularly hold a lot in my neck and my shoulders and upper back. And when I get massages, sometimes I will go in and feel like when they're massaging out like the knots in my back, it's releasing any negative or stored energy or anxiety. So it's a really therapeutic experience to have that visualization accompanying it. Also, visualizing when you're taking a shower or a bath, visualizing any of that energy seeping out is also a really great tool to use. So if you're standing in the shower and the water is pouring down on you, just kind of envisioning any anxiety just melting away.
Just being washed down the drain.
And when you're in the bath too, I like to use Epsom salts because they're actually very detoxifying for you. So just putting those salts in, I'm like, okay, that's going to just detoxify any negative impurities. So, and that includes anxiety for me as well. Those are very soothing, and just the warm water feels like a hug in itself.
So we've kind of given you a fairly exhaustive list of a lot of actionable things you can do, but I think it's important to also talk about inactions or things you want to avoid when you're feeling anxious. And I think a big one for both of us is social media. Sometimes, you know, just being on your phone and looking at screens can cause physical tension. It can cause you to feel exhausted and drained, but also depending on what you see when you refresh your feed or whatever, it might cause you anxiety, it might cause you grief or stress. So I think when you really feel like you're in the thick of it, avoiding social media entirely, just turn off your phone if you have to, close your laptop, just stay away from it if you can. I think in general, maybe with the exception of comforting TV, like avoiding screens for a little while is really helpful to just help ground you.
Especially right before you go to bed.
Yes.
Because I oftentimes get in a scrolling cycle right before I go to bed because I'm cozy in bed and I'm just scrolling. And I notice I feel so exhausted the next morning. Just because I think it tricks your brain into thinking that it's seeing light.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be daytime. Yeah. The blue light definitely keeps you up. So it's just something to be conscious of.
But one exception that we found, just as a really non-toxic social media platform and a really helpful tool, is Pinterest. So if you are looking for other ways that we haven't mentioned to manage your anxiety, or you want to look up a recipe to make if you feel like you might want to try baking, or if you want to look up some affirmations you can journal about, whatever it is, everything's on Pinterest, like everything. So I think that that's a really great resource, and you can get very specific with your searches as well. And people like you will come up who have blogs and resources for you to kind of pull from. And they're often very visually enhanced as well, so they're kind of fun to scroll through and peruse.
Sometimes there's just cute graphics there, so you kind of get the Instagram pictures, but without all of the noise in the comments.
Yes, without the clutter. Moving into some more naturally medicinal things you can do to help manage your anxiety. A big one for me is essential oils. And I thought of this when Jess started talking about taking a hot shower or a bath, putting the essential oils right into your bath water and enjoying that aromatherapy, or a couple of drops into your shower, and then you turn the shower water on and the heat and the steam lift the scent up and you are breathing it in and it's opening you up while you shower. Sometimes you can use essential oils topically. You can put them on your wrists, behind your ears, on either side of your neck, where it will be absorbed really quickly into your lymphatic system. Sometimes even on your stomach if you're having digestive issues, diffusing them as well into the air and enjoying like the whole aromatherapy experience in whatever room you're in or your workspace is super helpful. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Young Living. This is not sponsored. I'm not getting paid to say this. However, if any of you want to try essential oils and you want to try the purest ones, Young Living is great because they're seed to bottle and they're the most sustainably and ethically farmed. You can visit their farm in normal times and actually see what they do. You don't even have to tell them you're coming. You can just show up, which I think says a lot about their ethics practices. So I really love them. I found them to be the purest ones. There's no filler oils in them and there's no carrier oils. If you find cheaper oils at stores, it's because they're mixed with other carrier oils that are not necessarily naturally derived. So these are pure plant to seed to bottle oils, and I just find them to be truly amazing. Like, absolutely have changed my life. So if you want oils, I'm not sponsored. I will not get paid. If you message me about getting oils, I can order oils for you and you can save 22% or 24%. I forget what it is. Basically, 24. Because I order a lot of oils, I get 24% off. And so I get them for Jess, I get them for my mom, and everyone gets the discount, and it's great. But if you want to look into it, you can message me and I'll tell you more about that. Young Living does obviously all of your more straightforward oils. Lavender is a big one for anxiety. That's pretty standard. It will help promote calm. It will help you sleep.
Which one would you recommend in the shower?
In the shower, I love eucalyptus. Young Living does 3 different kinds of eucalyptus. The one I always get is Eucalyptus radiata. I think that one's the most spa-like in scent. It's definitely the most floral. I will put like 2 drops on the floor of my shower and then turn the water on and let like the shower, like I'll do it in the corner so it doesn't wash away. And it's like instantly it hits you. It makes the whole bathroom smell like a spa. It's amazing. And I'll do something else where they say to do it in the morning with a cold washcloth to help wake you up. But if I'm feeling anxious at night, I'll get a warm washcloth and put 1 drop of eucalyptus on it and just press it into my face. I'm literally holding my hand over my face so you can hear what it would sound like if I was talking to you while I do this. And you just like instantly feel like you can breathe. It's just opening you up. It's just like a little spa at home. So if you can't go to a spa right now because of the pandemic, you can have a little spa-like experience at home. That's the one I like in the shower. But as far as anxiety calming oils, Young Living does a blend called Peace and Calming that's a mix of orange and chamomile and rosemary and a couple of other essential oils that just smells incredible. And it like instantly calms me down. So what I like to do with that one, if I'm not diffusing it, is I put a drop on each of my wrists and I hold my wrists up and kind of close them around my face and I just breathe really deeply. So it's like breathwork and oils all at once,
which we love.
And then I love frankincense. Frankincense is actually really great for your immune system too. So it's kind of like a 2-for-1. It's really popular with like meditations and like in yoga classes and stuff too. It's just a very like woodsy, earthy kind of aroma. And then if I were to pick one more, it's actually an oil I just got recently that I'm very obsessed with right now called Envision. Envision is a blend of orange and black spruce, lavender, geranium flower, and sage. So it gives you this focused calm because the lavender really calms you down, but the sage is really good at helping focus your attention and stimulating your mindfulness and your memory. The orange is obviously like a brighter scent that kind of makes you feel like lively, and everything else is just very grounding. It's just an all-around great blend that I can use at daytime or nighttime. Again, that is like my big thing for anxiety management has been essential oils.
I'll share the two that have been really impactful for me as well. I also love the oils. Kristen is definitely the educated one on the oils. She's taught me a lot about this, but
Thanks.
I've always loved them too. And I think my favorite Young Living combination is called Humility. And that one, it's a very soothing and calming oil. It helps with like deeper spiritual awareness and bringing balance to your heart and your mind, which I love. It is a combination of so many different oils.
Yeah, their blends get really intricate.
It's very fancy. There's frankincense, myrrh, rosewood, geranium, lemon balm, like all these different things in it, but it smells amazing.
But if you break down each individual one, that makes so much sense, because like frankincense, spiritual awareness for sure, woodsy, earthy, calming. Lemon is very detoxifying and purifying.
Yeah.
So this like balance of all of them, I think their blends are just masterfully done.
My absolute cure-all go-to for everything is peppermint oil. Especially with my digestive issues, peppermint oil has been the only thing that effectively curbs off my nausea. And whenever I have anxiety in a public place, if I just put some peppermint under my nose and behind my ears and sometimes on the back of my neck, it really does calm me down. And I will put it directly on my stomach too. It is my anxiety reducer and my nausea curver, and I love peppermint oil for everything. It also helps with headaches too. So.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that's what I usually use it for. I'll put a little drop behind my ears, or I'll put one drop right in the center of my forehead, and it is like 5 minutes later I feel so much better. It's crazy.
Yeah, and peppermint oil has a really great like cooling sensation too. So that's a great segue for our next one. So I've noticed that colder temperatures really help a lot with anxiety for some reason. One of my therapists actually recommended this once when I was working at tours and I was very, very sick. I had horrible anxiety. So she was like, could you grab an ice cube and just put it in your hand and walk around with it? Because when you have an ice cube in your hand, it diverts your brain from like thinking and it focuses on the coldness in your hand. And that actually was a tip that really worked for me well. So maybe holding on to an ice cube would be a trick that could work for you.
Yeah.
Or honestly, like I like to put an ice pack on the back of my neck sometimes. And I know that's very cold, but that calms me down quite a lot. Yeah. Or if you live somewhere up north that is cold like we do here, walking outside into the cold Buffalo winters actually really, really calms me down.
It's like invigorating. You walk outside and you just get this like wall of cold air hitting you. And then
I didn't do that.
This one's pretty. You want to talk about it?
Well, I feel like this one's on brand for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
No one loves water more than Jeff.
It's true. So I know this is the advice that you're always going to get, but drinking water is so important because human beings are made up of so much water and we need more than we even think we do. So drinking water, it's an obvious one, and a lot of people just don't do it because it's so much easier to drink coffee or sodas or whatever. But drinking water, it's so important. Find a way that works for you, because sometimes I get it, water is plain, but maybe you find a cup that you really love. Like I have this cup, it's a swig cup, and it's decorated with Christmas lights, and I use it every day. It has a plastic straw, and it keeps my water cold all day. I love cold water. That's what really helps me. For some people, it's warm water. For some people, it's room temperature water. For some people, it's ice water with lemon, which is the superior combo in my opinion.
Yeah.
Adding lemon to your water is not only detoxifying, but it adds a lot of flavor. So
yeah, I used to be an ice water person, but I found with my stomach, cold or even room temperature water is so much better for me for my digestion. But
that's actually a Chinese medicine thing.
Yeah.
It's proven.
And then someone like my mom, she starts every morning with she'll get a mug with hot water and lemon, and that's what she drinks every morning, like while she's getting ready for the day. Find what temperature makes you want to drink more, and then go with that. Whether it's lemon or lime is really great too. And then if you are not a water person, herbal tea is a great way to hydrate. It's not caffeinated, so it's not a diuretic. It's not going to dehydrate you. We love comforting, cozy things when we're feeling anxious. And to me, nothing is cozier than holding a mug with two hands. So obviously, I'm probably going to stay away from coffee when I'm feeling really anxious, although it doesn't seem to trigger my anxiety.
It triggers mine, so it depends on the person.
If I'm already feeling anxious, I'm going to avoid it. But if I'm not feeling anxious, coffee is fine. Again, it's learning your body and paying attention to those cues. But I am somebody who eats soup out of a mug or drinks broth out of a mug. I love just the feeling of putting two hands around a warm mug. That is very calming and comforting to me. Or drinking tea. We all have our favorites. I really like cinnamon tea.
Ooh.
Or an herbal tea that has like hibiscus and mango or something like really tropical.
Herbal teas are so fun. My favorite tea is peppermint tea. I am a peppermint gal all the way through. My stomach issues and my anxiety are directly linked. So, peppermint tea is definitely a go-to, and it is so cozy.
I was going to say drink every time we say the word cozy.
All right, so these have been a ton of our tips, and we have 3 final points we want to make before we wrap up this episode. The first one being that sometimes when you're having a really anxious day, sometimes it's important to just give yourself permission to take the rest of the day off with no remorse. We are so conditioned to want to push through, and we want to just do things because we think we have to and we need to prove something to ourselves, but when anxiety is involved, sometimes you just have to surrender to it and just go with the flow of what your body wants. And if that means taking the rest of the day off, eating something really nourishing, and watching your comfort TV show for the rest of the night, and not doing work and not trying to overstimulate your brain, then just do it. If you do really want to do something tangible and you want to do a practice but something not super high stress, again, like we mention all the time, maybe journaling is going to be something good for you. When I have anxiety, I have 2 types of journaling I want to do. One is when my thoughts are so overwhelming, I just need to brain dump it out. And I just write and write and write and write, like a stream of consciousness journaling. Sometimes I don't even look at the page. I just write whatever flows into my head. It's messy, it's all over the place, but it just gets it out. So that's one really good strategy. And then the other one is I really love guided journals. So I have one particular journal that is created for anxiety. It's called Tiny Buddha's Worry Journal, a creative way to let go of anxiety and find peace. I just found it on my shelf the other day, opened it up, and realized how much of a gem it is. So I've been going through it the past few nights, and there's let it go pages, and it asks questions like, what's worrying you? What's not within your control? What do you need to accept to make peace with those things? Like asking good questions to start thinking about, okay, like confronting your anxiety, like why am I thinking this? And looking at it from a different way. And something really cool about it is there are those adult coloring pages right within the book. So you can color as you go. It's really fun, and they're really beautiful pieces of artwork. It has a very tranquil feel to it. It's just purple, blue colors on the cover. It's a phenomenal book for anxiety. I highly, highly recommend it. That one works for me. If you have a vibe similar to me, check it out. If you want to just look in general, scroll through, find one that works for you.
If you are someone who finds comfort in biblical and scriptural practices to do with anxiety management, they have so many different kinds of journaling Bibles that you can get that help you to kind of meditate and journal along while you read. So you can choose a passage or a book or a chapter and choose what resonates with you in that moment. I think it's cool to read the Bible chronologically, but it might take you several years. And there are certain parts that are going to help with your anxiety and certain parts that might stimulate your anxiety. So I would say find something like Psalms, Romans, Ephesians, something like that. And there are so many really beautiful journaling Bibles you can buy just like on Amazon that help it to be a guided practice. So earlier when I was talking about finding a place in nature that you can go to when you're feeling anxious, if you're somebody like me who needs to get outside and kind of get out of your head, I said call it your place, like my ocean, my mountaintop, my whatever it is. Label it and possess it as your own because it is your safe space. But I think on the flip side of that, we always take ownership of the negative things too. So we take ownership of our anxiety and call it ours. It's my anxiety. And by doing that, you're claiming it as part of you. So it attaches itself to you and you feel like you have to carry it with you because it's part of you. But Jess had a thought that I think is super powerful for kind of detaching from that as part of your identity.
Yeah. So for our second wrap-up point, instead of calling it my anxiety, call it the anxiety or give it its own name. Just detach it from you. Don't claim it as your own. I had a therapist tell me to do this once, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't need to claim it as mine. I am not my anxiety. It is not me. It is just the anxiety. The anxiety is flaring up today. And admittedly, I think I've made the mistake during this episode of calling it my anxiety because, you know what, it's not a habit that I've completely broken yet, but it's an awareness that I have when I'm able to step back and look at it. It's a piece of advice I've gotten from a therapist that will never leave me. And it's comforting because then it's not like I don't have to carry the burden of it because it's not mine. It's the thing that flares up sometimes and it comes and goes, but it is not who I am.
Last powerful kind of takeaway we wanted to leave you with was to also show yourself grace by not making yourself the wrong thing in all of this. Anxiety is a thing that happens, it's energy, it's occurring, but you are not wrong for experiencing it. There is so much in this world and on this planet that causes us to feel anxiety, and that is okay. It's natural. It's almost more normal to have anxiety these days than it is to not have anxiety. So I think reminding yourself that you're not alone, that there are practical resources that you can employ to help yourself manage it and to be whole and complete and love your life in still experiencing anxiety from time to time. That's why we talk about anxiety management. It's not to get rid of it. It's not to tell yourself you are wrong for experiencing it. It's not to put any shame around it. It's just to help you to still be you and to be authentic and honest and live a joyful, fulfilling life, even though sometimes anxiety happens. So know that you're not wrong.
You don't need to fight yourself and try to get rid of the thoughts because I know that's something that I've done before. Like, I shouldn't feel this way. I don't want to feel this way. And like trying to push it out. Sometimes you're just going to have to let it exist and accept it and know that it ebbs and flows and it comes and goes. And if it's here, it's not a big deal. Just, again, the mantra, it's okay and I feel safe over and over and over again. So that just about wraps up our anxiety management episode. And I hope this was helpful. I know this is one that a lot of people were asking for, and we actually enjoyed creating it because I think it allowed us to really reflect on our experiences and see what's worked for us over the years.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a journey for both of us for many years. It's not something that goes away necessarily overnight, but it has gone from debilitating and crippling and agoraphobic to now I feel comfortably in a place where I can talk about it openly and share my experience and what's worked for me and what hasn't. And so there's no shame surrounding it. It's very normal, and we hope that everything that we've said has given you some inspiration, or maybe something resonated with you a little more than something else, and maybe you're just going to try all of the things and see what works and what doesn't. But we hope that you will let us know what's working for you and what's not, and if you know anybody in your life, a friend, a family member who has anxiety or is going through a rough time, maybe you'll pass this along to them as a resource. And if you do experience success with some of these strategies, please DM us. Let us know that you're listening so that we can connect with you, and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts if you feel so inclined to let us know that you're enjoying listening and that what we're saying is actually helping someone out there. We hope you have a great week. We hope you'll stay with us as we spring clean our minds and our physical spaces during this month of March. And next week, we're going to talk all about spring cleaning. The actual cleaning and clearing of your spaces to make room for new things.
Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will talk to you next Tuesday.
Bye!
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Rediscover.
Please subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening. Your reviews are what keep us going, and we'd love to hear from you.
Join us every Tuesday for a new conversation, and let us know what you think we should talk about next.
Follow us on Instagram at positively.kristen and at jessicafay508. And check out Jess's blog at theroadjesstraveled with 1l.com.
Until next time,
Stay frumpy!